he was forced to eat potatoes. And so he was eating them forcefully.
Because he was Mr. Potato Advocate, man. Poutine? I love etymology or whatever this is. The study. Hello and welcome to Gobs and Goblets with your host Hannah
And Maddie.
So today we've decided to do French fries.
We have.
Now the reason we've decided to do this, I don't know if you've tuned into the past 5 episodes. But it's been turbulent to say the least. I don't really want to cook today, or I want to cook something that I hope is easy, but I'm not sure if it's going to be easy. And French fries, well, for Maddie specifically, is like a massive comfort food. I've never met anyone who doesn't like French fries, personally.
Because they're just elite. The thing is with French fries is you can never go wrong. If I'm hungover, French fries. If I'm sad, French fries. If I'm happy, French fries. They're so fitting for everything. Like, if I could live off French fries, chips.
Whatever.
I would.
100%.
So
yeah.
Without further ado,
let's do it.
Okay, so pre-16th century, potatoes weren't really consumed by people. When they were introduced in the 1600s, a lot of people didn't want to go near them. And one of the reasons for this is because that they were a member of the nightshade family. So the nightshade family is a group of vegetables, including peppers, tomatoes, potatoes, etc. That kind of like very common, common food. But they all contain a very small amount of a toxin called solanine. And now, don't worry, if you've been eating it for however long, you'll be fine. Humans have survived, like, the consumption of this food for however long now. But people were very suspicious of it. And another thing was that they believed that nightshade vegetables were planted by witches and devils. And as we've established in previous episodes, people were at this time, as we've mentioned, very superstitious. They weren't going to risk it for a biscuit. Now we're going to look at the sort of origins of Spain and how the Spanish actually brought the potato from South America in Colombia. There was a Spanish conquistador who was named Jimenez de Quesada. My Spanish is not very good, just to put it out there. Anyway, so he was traveling through Colombia and he managed to stumble upon the route and he thought, wow, this is class, let's bring it back. So he then brought it back to Spain and that was basically the start of it through Europe. It's where it originated from. In Spain at the time, they became quite popular. Lots of people ate them. Historian Paul Legums, who is a curator at the Fries Museum in Belgium, he says that Mediterranean cuisine was very fond of frying food. So this kind of brings us on to the sister of the French fry, which is patatas bravas. Now, me and Hannah, if you didn't know from before, we spent a month in Barcelona together. Love it there. So we ate it all the time. It's believed that it was created in Madrid in the 20th century when a chef at Casa Pellico, again butchering the Spanish, he decided to combine a spicy sauce with these little cut up cubes of potato and they became so popular. People loved them. They were a great appetizer and from there they spread through, and this was in the 1960s. However, there is another theory that says that it was actually created in the 1930s in the southwest region of Spain in a place called Extremadura. And this was created in a bar there by somebody called Senor Bravas. So kind of gives the name. Anyway, and this was created in the 1930s. But moving forward to the actual, the story of the French fry as it is. Basically, in France, people, when the potatoes got brought across, they were like, no, not going to eat this. This is terrible. It's going to give us diseases. And people thought that it caused leprosy, actually. And the parliament at this time, they weren't really I was going to say they didn't have the capacity to deal with leprosy, which they probably didn't, but they also didn't want to have to deal with a pandemic.
Yeah.
So potatoes, crazy, were actually outlawed in 1748 for like human consumption. So you could not eat them.
Wow.
And they were used for hog feed instead, so feeding animals and cattle and all for the farm life. However, a French officer, medical officer, called Antoine Augustin Parmentier, he was actually imprisoned in Prussia. And now, in his time in jail, he was forced to eat potatoes. And so he was eating them forcefully. And he realised that he wasn't getting sick and he wasn't getting leprosy. So when he came back to France, he was like, guys, you've got to get on this. And he became a massive advocate for the humble potato. So one of the ways that he actually decided to kind of spread some, I suppose, hot goss about potatoes was he created a potato patch. And then he hired soldiers, right, to guard the potatoes. And yeah, I know, crazy. He hired them and then he let people steal the potatoes. So I don't really know why soldiers were needed, because he was just giving them out for free, but maybe the French were a bit scandalous at that time.
Just a bit of drama, isn't it?
And they
cause
wanted
commotion.
Exactly, and it raises some excitement.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was saying to Hannah earlier, it's like when I was younger, my mum would always be like, you cannot eat many sweets, and it would always make me want to eat even more, and I did. Anyway, not the point. But people then started becoming really fond of them, and the law was actually lifted and they became legal in 1772, and they became a very desired vegetable in France. And then this kind of was prompted even more by the fact that famine struck in 1785 and people really had the choice between starvation or potato. So it was kind of take your pick, because potatoes weren't affected. So lots of people started eating them, and then they became a popular street vendor food. So people would cut them up and fry them, and I suppose this is the first indication of really a French fry.
Yeah. Very quickly, with Antoine Augustin Parmentier, when I saw the name, I was like, Parmentier, that looks familiar. You have Parmentier potatoes, but it was named after him because he was Mr. Potato Advocate, man.
He was. Love how he's referred to.
I know, but it was named after him, which is really cool.
The first mention of French fries was actually found in a book that was written in 1775, and the first recipe that was recorded was actually in a French cookbook that came out in 1795. So they're pretty old. Wow. Now we're going to move on to Belgium, and Belgium's a bit more debated as to whether or not they found the French fry, but they're serious advocates over there for it. So in 1860, the river in Namur froze over, and the people around there, they often collected small fish and fried it. Obviously you couldn't do that because the river's frozen, so they decided to do it with potatoes instead. And now this is just a sort of a tale that's been told throughout time, but it's often doubted because A, potatoes weren't there at the time, and B, they don't believe that oil was there either. Or it wasn't something that they had lots of and, access to. So, you win some, you lose some.
You do.
As we mentioned before, some historians have questions about this. But the Belgians, they stand firm in their stance, and they petitioned to have the French fry as one of their national dishes, and they petitioned UNESCO to make it part of their culture. So,
wow. Even though there was no potatoes or oil there.
Scandalous, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Belgian historian Pierre Leclerc discovered that a German-born person who goes by the name of Herr Krieger, he actually trained in Paris to become a chef, and he did some cooking there, and this is where he learned all about sort of potatoes. And then he went to Belgium, and that was where he kind of started selling it. So, German-born person, French teachings, and Belgian selling market. It's all intertwined, and that's history for you.
That was amazing. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
My question is, where do the names come from though? So obviously, loads of different names. We've got French fries, frites, fries, chips. What's going on? So basically, to start with French and Belgium, where the history happened, they call them pommes frites. So that literally translates to fried potato. However, in America, they refer to them as French fries. Now, there's two possible theories for this. One of them being that during World War I, when American soldiers went over to Belgium, because the Belgian soldiers spoke French, they immediately assumed, it's a French dish.
Interesting.
However, some sources say that they were referring to them as French fries even before that happened. So we don't know how true that story is about World War One. But that's French fries there. Now, we call them chips here in the UK. So why do we call them chips in the UK? Now, the first recorded time that the word chip was used was in 1859. And chips basically used to refer to or mean sliced fruit or vegetables. So they used to actually call them chip shop chips because they used to sell them in the chip shops. And then they became so popular that the word chip kind of stuck. Now, chip actually comes from an Old English word. Now, I do not know how to pronounce this, let me be so for real. It's either forcipian, forcipian, or forchipian. However, and that means to basically like cut away at stuff. So that's where chip comes from. Now, CIPP is in the middle of that word. We're going to put it up for you. Now, again, either sip, kip, or chip. But that used to mean a small piece of wood, hence a wood chip.
They were onto something.
I love etymology or whatever this is. The study.
Yeah, I think
The history of language is sick. It's sick. It all like makes sense. Anyway, so that's where it got its name from. So how did chips come to the UK? So basically during the Industrial Revolution, it was like the Big Bang, like it was all going on. And basically a lot of northern towns hopped on the craze. They were like, right, we need to get chips happening. So there are a lot of towns that basically lay claim to having been the first chip maker in the UK. However, we believe that it was Oldham. Why? Because they have a blue plaque in Tommyfield Market in Oldham. And this plaque basically states them as the first town to make chips. They might have done that to just be like, competition, go away. I don't know. But that might be the town. So that's how chips came to the UK. How did chips come to America? Now we have Mr. Thomas Jefferson. He was a third US president and he was also one of the founding fathers. So in 1785, he was actually sent to Paris to serve as minister plenipotentiary to the court of Louis XVI. What does plenipotentiary mean? It's a fantastic question. I had absolutely no clue. So it's a diplomatic official of the highest rank sent by a sovereign or state to another as its representative, basically. So he was sent there, and during his time there, he fell in love with frites, with fries, with chips. He loved them. He also fell in love with so many other French recipes to the point that he actually got his slave, James Hemming, to train as a chef to basically perfect this recipe amongst his other French favourites. So during his time there, he was studying the culinary arts and he basically was writing down all these French recipes. So then in 1789, when the reign ended, he went back to the US and he brought all his notes along with him. So he actually gave them to his granddaughter, Mary Randolph, and she basically wrote them all up nicely for him, along with his favourite recipes from the White House and Monticello. Now, Monticello was his mountain top house and also his plantation. So she wrote them up and basically created a cookbook, and this was published in 1824, and it's called The Virginia Housewife or Methodical Cook. So yeah, that's how they came to the US.
Love it.
We're now going to talk about fries kind of all over the world because they are all over the world. They have international influence, probably because most people do like them. And there's so many variations about how they're enjoyed everywhere. So we're going to start off in Canada.
Ooh.
And we're going to start with the famous dish, poutine. Now, it's not pronounced Poutine. I was taught in French that if it's I-N-E ending, you say un. Poutine is a very rude word. I don't think I should even be saying it. Do not say that it is poutine. So also Canadian French compared to France French, very different thing. So where does the word poutine come from? So poutine, it's most commonly believed that it actually comes from the English word pudding.
Oh.
And in French it's poutine or something. really sorry to any French speakers, Canadian French speakers. And basically, the meaning behind pudding is it's a mix of loads of different foods and it's quite messy.
Interesting. I always thought it was a sweet treat, but the more you know.
So poutine is basically French fries served with gravy and cheese curds. Now, this basically started in the 1950s in kind of snack bars in rural Quebec. And the reason for this is because there was loads of fromageries, which are basically cheese places, fromage is cheese in French, in the central of Quebec. So a lot of places were selling cheese curds. Now, there are a lot of theories about who first made poutine, because a lot of families and a lot of towns said they did it first, because obviously you'd want to be known as the first. I have two cases for you today. So the first case we have is in, I think it's Warwick or Warwick, near Victoriaville in Canada, and sorry, and the guy is Fernand Lechance, sick name. And he owned a little cafe and it was called Café Ideal, but then he changed it to, I'm very sorry, Le Lutin Guirit. Anyway, so basically what he claims is he had a regular customer coming in, and in 1957, this customer asked him to put cheese curds on his chips. So he did, and then he used to serve it in a brown paper bag. So then Lechance goes, "Ça te va faire une maudite poutine," or something, which means it's going to make a damned mess, because obviously he was serving it in brown paper bags, so it's going to make a mess. So basically he then added it onto the menu because it started becoming really popular. Now later in 1964, 7 years later, he started serving it on plates. I don't know why it took him 7 years to realise that bags to plates was a good idea considering the mess, but it took him a while and he got there in the end. Now, people who started coming into the restaurant and having it were complaining that their fries and curds were getting cold too quick. So what he did in order to keep the fries and the curds warm was he doused them in gravy.
Ooh, lovely.
Hence poutine. Now we have a second case. So we have Jean-Paul Roy, and he was the owner of the drive-in restaurant Le Joy Roussep, and he was based in Victoriaville. So what happened with him is he was actually already serving a fries dish that had a special sauce from 1957, and he called it the patate sauce. I imagine potato sauce. And he basically saw that people started adding cheese curds onto these fries. So what he did was he then added it to his menu, and he then called it fromage patate sauce. He basically just added curds to his cheese sauce, because he used to sell curds in like the snack bit in his shop. And then, yeah, in 1964, it became this thing that everyone loved. So those are kind of the two stories. Which one it was, there might have been others, we'll never know. But yeah, this is hugely popular there. I've never tried it, don't know about you.
I've never tried it either, so I'm actually really looking forward to it because I love gravy. I don't know how I feel about cheese curds and gravy and chips, but I'm open to anything.
Cheese curds are very hard to get in the UK, so I have got, it's actually Polish, it's called Faruk. It's like a full fat curd cheese. It comes in like a triangle, so I think we'll just crumble them on top. I don't know if that's going to be like proper, but it said curd cheese, so
we're trying our hardest out
we'll give it a go. Yeah. So how else are they enjoyed around the world? So in England, we obviously have salt and vinegar. Maddie has to have salt and vinegar on all her chips.
I do. Unless they're from McDonald's, and I don't, obviously.
Such a weirdo. But basically, But basically, we don't actually know when they were first paired together, but we can assume that it's been for a very long time. So malt vinegar existed in houses, pubs and restaurants long before they were even added to chips. It was like an essential in a lot of places. And then salt, although it was expensive back in the day, it was essential for flavouring and preservation. So we can imagine that they were married quite long ago. Now, curry sauce was introduced in the 1970s. This was when a lot of Asian families started moving to the north of England and opening up their own chip shops there. And then in the 1980s, it went across the Irish Sea, and now curry sauce is massively popular in Ireland.
I've only tried one chip in curry sauce once in my life.
Was it good?
I can't remember, but I think if I really liked it, I probably would have got it again.
I've never tried chips and curry sauce.
Yeah. More you know.
You like what you like. And then we're going to take us across to Netherlands. Now, I actually tried this dish in Antwerp in Belgium, and it's called Pataje Oorlog. Again, if I'm butchering that, I'm really sorry. And what it is, it's fries, and you got mayonnaise on one side, and then a peanut satay sauce on the other, and you basically sprinkle raw diced onions on top. Now, it doesn't sound nice, I will be honest. Like, you listen to it and you think, are those flavours gonna marry? No, I tried it, and when I say it was one of the most incredible things I've had in my life.
I'm expecting big things from this then. Like,
Oh, I
I'm
just
excited.
loved it. We're gonna try it later. Yeah. Anyway, pataje, I was like dreaming about it. Pataje is Dutch for potato, and oorlog is Dutch for war. So they literally translate to war fries. Now, people don't actually know why this is, but people can assume it's because of how messy they are. So it's all about mess. I know. So yeah, and then in terms of where the peanut satay sauce comes from, now the Dutch colonized Indonesia in the 1600s, and it ended in 1949. Indonesia are the creators of satay sauce, so we can kind of assume that that's where that happened. And our final recipe is chicken salt. Now, chicken salt comes from Australia, and it was Adelaide local Peter Brinksworth who created this seasoning basically to season his roast chicken. However, the Matani family came along in the late 1970s, and they actually bought the chicken shop from him. And by buying the chicken shop, they were technically buying the chicken salt recipe. So what they do is they started to sell it to takeaway joints. And then it blew up. It became so popular, and chicken salt chips is like really popular in Australia now. So back in the day, the recipe was garlic powder, onion powder, celery salt, paprika, MSG, and chicken bouillon, which is chicken stock cube basically. But nowadays, what they've removed is the MSG and the chicken bouillon, and they've added salt and rice flour instead.
Oh, interesting.
So it's completely chicken free. So the recipe we're doing for you today is the one that Thomas Jefferson brought over from France, and the one that his granddaughter Mary Randolph wrote up for him. So it goes: peel large potatoes, slice them about 1/4 inch thick. I think what I did was 1/4 inch thick, I'm not entirely sure. Or cut them in shavings round and round as you would peel a lemon. Dry them well in a clean cloth. Now, a clean cloth really does not dry them well, let me just say that right now. And fry them in lard or dripping. As we know, if you've been tuning in, which is really nice, episode 2, I did that for butter. I used butter to fry popcorn, and it didn't really work. And so I've done oil this time. Take care that your fat and frying pan are quite clean. This is essential because the second time round that we fried the potato, the oil just goes all cloudy and murky and you can't see anything. So it's really important that it's clean. Put it on a quick fire, watch it, and as soon as the lard boils and is still, put in the slices of potato and keep moving them till they are crisp. Take them up and lay them to drain on a sieve. I used paper towels on a plate. Send them up with very little salt sprinkled on them.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
I'm really excited to try this. I've heard good things.
So yeah, should we try?
Let's try.
Let's do it. Okay, so welcome back. We have our little mascot Magic with us because it's nearly her dinner time and she's a bit on edge, so she's been barking a lot. But yeah, should we try?
I'm very excited. As we all know, I love my chips, so this is great.
Got a lovely poutine here. What do you think? That's a bit mean.
Right.
Okay. I last time I remember I can make a good chip.
I should hope so.
I'm just
You
saying,
cut
like,
the potato and fry it.
No, my fork's here. Right, okay. I've never tried this.
No, me either.
I really like that. And it's the first time I haven't the recipe.
Do you know what? I don't mind it. I can't say like I would go out of my way to get it, but like I'll eat it.
Do you know what? Could the fries be crispier? Yes, but it's cooked, and that's my main concern. Did I think the gravy and the cheese would go well together? No, but it does. Wow, because this cheese is quite a sour cheese.
I want to try the cheese by itself.
Try the cheese by itself. It's like a cottage cheese, but when you mix them together, just this magic happens, and I love it. Like, I didn't think I'd like that.
No, the texture of the cheese, it's like eating...
Curds?
I don't know. I don't know. But altogether, it's alright. Yeah.
8 out of 10.
I go for like a 4 or 5, personally.
Our war fries, Pataje Oorlog.
See, this I'm actually quite nervous about.
This is one of my favourite things I've ever eaten.
It's mayo and... Do you want me to hold that? No, you got it.
Got it.
Mayo
And onion
peanut.
and peanuts and... I just passed my... No way.
Don't touch anyone.
Outside.
Not like using a towel. Give me 1 minute, guys.
Like Maddie said, it's delicious. You don't think it's going to go together, and it does. Amazing.
I so hope that you can't see that on camera.
They just went flying in my face.
No, because it was so tasty. It really caught me off guard because everything you made has been horrible.
I know.
So that was a very emotional moment, and I just tried.
I was
going to
say
laugh. And then because I tried not to laugh, it just all came out.
I was going to say, like, you know, this is the only reason in my life I'd be happy that you spat out food by accident in my face because it was that good.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not going to lie, this one went a bit wrong. Thought I had onion powder, didn't have onion powder, no MSG. And then chicken bouillon is very different to chicken stock. So chicken bouillon you can actually crumble. Chicken stock is made to be mixed with hot water.
Melted
down. So I tried. Yep.
Very excited.
For me, that's like the Australian equivalent of peri-peri chips, but a bit chickeny.
I could get on that, do you know what I mean?
And finally, salt and vinegar, which we've all tried before. So, okay. Maddie loves a lot of salt and a lot of vinegar.
It's true, I do. It's not the same. If you
It
haven't
literally
done it.
dripped.
Cheers.
Very vinegary and salty.
But you just cannot go wrong. Can you?
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, wow!
Sorry.
I'd like some more now, please.
Would you actually?
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to our 6th episode. I'm so glad something went well today. You know what they say in life? They say trust the process. And
But
we
you do.
Well, I trusted it. I don't think Maddie trusted in me anymore, but see you next week.